Welcome to another tutorial on the customer website. In this part, we are going to review the saved items and the addresses section of the user's dashboard. Let's first log into the account and navigate to the user's dashboard by clicking on the user's name. After navigating to the user's dashboard, you can see a list of the different sections of the dashboard on the left side of the page. By default, the saved items section is selected. We have previously covered how to add items to the saved items list using different methods. Here are all the items that have been added. You can see the name, category, and the price for each one. And you can also navigate to their detail page by clicking on them. If you decide to remove any of the items from the list, you can do so by clicking on the button below each one. And after refreshing the page, the item will be removed. Now let's navigate to the addresses section of the dashboard by choosing it from the sidebar menu. On this page, you can view, edit, remove, and add the shipping addresses and the billing addresses. There is a 3-dot button beside each address that lets you edit, duplicate, set the address as default if not already, or remove the address. Let's try editing one by clicking on the edit button. If the address is not a default address already, you can change its type between shipping and billing. And you can also make it default by using the checkbox at the bottom. You can change the pre-filled information on the form and press the update address button to save the changes. Now let's try duplicating a shipping address to the billing address section and then remove it from there. One point that you need to note is that there is a slight difference between duplicating an address that is set as default and the other addresses. First, we will try duplicating a default address. As you see, when we click on the duplicate address button, a dialog like the editing dialog opens up that lets us modify the address and then duplicate it using the create address button. Let's leave it unchanged and duplicate it. Now we have the same address in the billing section, and as you can see, it's set to the default address because the original address was a default address as well. Let's try removing it and see what happens. As you can see, the system won't let us remove the address since it's the default address. So first we need to set another address as a default address and then delete it. Now let's try duplicating a non-default address. As you can see, when we try duplicating a non-default address, it gives us two options. We can duplicate it as a billing address or as a shipping address. And also there is a checkbox at the bottom that lets us set this address as default address. And it's added as the default address. You can view and edit the tax information of the shipping addresses by clicking on the tax info button. In the expanded section, you can view and edit the exempt number if any exists, or insert and saving it using the Save Changes button. The last thing we are going to cover in this tutorial is how to create a new address. To do so, click on the Add a New Address button. As you can see, the open dialog is the same as the one we saw for editing and creating a duplicate address, with the difference that the form on this dialog is not a pre-filled form. Let's fill it up and create a new address. And the address will be added to the system. That includes everything for the first two sections of the user dashboard. We will cover the next sections in the future tutorials.